today, mind powers and mental powers. And I thought today I would just talk about meditation, but I feel like there's so much more to what we can do with our minds than just meditation. And it's pretty amazing, like the power that we have that we often take for granted, right? To like control, like we can influence like our thoughts, right? Like you can literally like think about a pink elephant or visualize anything you want, right? Like you can focus your mind on anything you want. And I think when this is so important to understand the power that we have to control our minds and our thoughts and our feelings and emotions, and is like when when things are tough, right? When we're stressed out and life is challenging and we have problems and setbacks and bad things happen, right? To remember that we have this power to direct ourselves, to direct our lives, and to change our experience of life, literally, right? Because you can literally change the experience of your life just by what you think or what you pay attention to, what you focus on. So there's a whole bunch of different kind of mental powers that we have. But there's this there's this story in Star Wars, right, where there's this thing called the Force, right? Like all these Jedis, they train their mind, and they have this power called the Force, and literally, like with their mind, they can change physical reality. They can like move objects, and they can change the physical world with their mind. There's also so many stories about like superpowers and superheroes, and they have all these powers, right? And they're almost always related to doing something with your mind that changes the physical world. And what's really fascinating to me about these stories is that they're actually hyper realistic, because you actually do change the physical world when you use your mind. So science has now shown that every time you think a thought or do an action or make a movement or meditate or visualize or anything you do with your mind, you're actually rewiring your brain. It's like every second you're rewiring your brain based on what you're doing with your life. So if you think a different thought, you literally create new connections, new synapses, new neurons grow in your brain. And you're literally changing the matter of your brain and your being by what you think and how you feel and what you're doing. So we all have this superpower, which is pretty mind-blowing if you think about like how it works, right? Because you can literally become a different person. You can rewire your brain. And also this book I'm working on editing now is about somatics and like muscle memory. And so like what I didn't realize a long time ago was that that you don't just have a brain in your brain, like your entire body is a brain. So you have nerve cells throughout your entire body, which are brain cells, essentially, right? And so you've probably heard of like muscle memory, right? Like if you play a sport, you're shooting a basketball, eventually your hand, your arm literally just learns what to do, right? It has its own brain. And so if you want to shoot a really good free throw, you don't use your brain to shoot a good free throw, you use your arm to shoot a good free throw. Like literally your arm is doing the thinking, it's doing the movement, it's doing all the work. We don't just have the brain up here, we have our entire body that we can control and influence. And what's fascinating about the somatic research is that you can actually rewire your muscles to have different posture, to do things differently. And that can change, your stress levels and reduce pain and all kinds of amazing things you can do by rewiring your body and your brain. So there's a whole bunch of different superpowers that we have, right? There's the ability to meditate, right? And so studies have shown that within 4 weeks of meditating, it increases certain areas in your brain, their size by 24%. And those are the areas of your brain, like your hippocampus, that have to do with memory and emotions and executive decision-making. So like, let's say something bad happens, how do you react to that, right? Well, when these parts of your brain are in control, you're much more in control of the situation, right? You're much more in control of your own emotions. You are better able to handle tough situations in life. That's pretty amazing that in 28 days, you can have that kind of change in your brain and your results, right? So that's just meditation. And there's like visualization. So there's all kinds of studies showing that visualization can help. It can help treat like depression and PTSD and trauma and all kinds of things just by doing like guided visualizations, right? And if you read novels or fantasy or fiction, right? I mean, you probably visualize while you're reading the story, right? Sometimes it's the funnest part of reading a great story, right? Like visualizing yourself being there. And that has been actually shown to, reading fiction and visualizing that way has been shown to like increase your ability to relate to other people and your compassion and social skills and things like that. It's pretty amazing too. And then we have the ability to basically direct our attention and our focus, right? Like we can change what we focus on. We can change what we pay attention to, right? So right now your eyes are taking in all this information from the screen and what's around you in your room, but you choose what to pay attention to. You choose what to focus on at any given moment, right? And if you actually look at the way the universe is, the way the world is, like there's an infinite amount of information, right? Like all around you, like there's like cosmic rays that are coming from like billions of light years away, and they travel like right through us, and they travel through the earth and like through the other side of the earth, right? There's all kinds of energy information all around us, but we only pay attention to a very small percentage of it. So you can direct what you pay attention to, and that will influence how you feel and how you think. And then we have memories, right? And we can think back to memories, and that can change the way we feel. Like, actors will, if they have to cry in a scene, they'll remember like a time in their life when they were crying, right? And they'll go back to that memory and they can feel those emotions again. And we have that ability. It's pretty amazing. You can influence what you feel, right? Again, you can use your memory to feel what you want to feel, right? You can literally think of any emotion you want to feel, and if you really just pay attention to it, like you'll just start to feel that emotion. Like you can just take your whole body, your mind in that direction if you want. And your thoughts, you can control and influence your thoughts. And of course, we all know that our thoughts influence our emotions, right? Like Michael Singer has this great YouTube talk about mindfulness and meditation. And one of the things he said that was just so profound to me was that, there was never a person who killed themselves who their mind didn't tell them to do it, right? And you think about that and like how important it is to be mindful, to pay attention, to direct our thoughts, to direct our emotions, to be grateful for what we have, right? Because the mind can be a powerful tool for good, it can also be a powerful tool for evil and bad, right? And it's up to us to decide what we want to do with what we have, the gift that we have. And then there's like this other aspect of mental powers, which are like the body, like using your body in different ways, right? So we talked about how like, certain poses, like a power pose of like your hands on your hips and like your shoulder out and your chest up, like just being in that posture can help you feel more confident, and you boost your serotonin levels, and you feel more positive and more happy just by changing your physical, just the way your body is, right? That's pretty remarkable, right? That we have these abilities, and oftentimes we forget, like we're having a bad day, something happens, we stub our toe, we get upset, and we forget that we have these superpowers at hand that we can change how we feel, and we can change how we react to the world. This other book we're working on is about EMDR, which is really fascinating, which is, it's this type of therapy that's based on just using your body. So, basically, the science behind it shows that, let's say you have like a traumatic event, or you have a memory, PTSD, or you have a memory that's like really painful. And when you think about this memory now, like you still feel that pain, you still feel that emotion. And what they found is if you just stimulate both sides of your brain while you think about that emotion, it helps your brain create new connections that allow you to basically dissolve that emotion, right? And it's been used to treat PTSD and depression and trauma and all kinds of really tough things. And it works like instantly. It doesn't always work instantly, but when it does work, it tends to work really, really fast. And so you can actually practice that now. So you can so there's one thing called the butterfly. So you take your arms like this, kind of like give yourself a hug, and you start patting both sides of your shoulders like this while you think about like the painful memory or the painful experience. And I know it kind of looks funny, but it's like super soothing. Like you'll just feel calmer like instantly. And actually, this has been used like all over the world. It's like when there's, horrible, volcanic eruptions or earthquakes or hurricanes, and like the WHO, the World Health Organization, goes in to help, to help rehabilitate and help people who are, their homes have been destroyed, they've lost family members, they've been obviously traumatized, and they'll teach people just to do this, right? It's a really simple thing, but it helps them recover so much better, so much faster. The other things with EMDR is you can just look like left to right, like just you literally just moving your eyes from left to right, or from like bottom left to upper right, or from bottom right to upper left. You just move back and forth while you think about the emotion of the experience, and it helps, again, create new connections in your brain and rewires the experience in your brain, and it no longer becomes this horrible thing that can control your life, right? Like you regain control of your life, and you can, it's pretty amazing. So I'm sure there's probably way more superpowers that we have. These are just a few that I thought of and wrote down and wanted to share. But I think it's really important to remind ourselves that we have all these tools at our disposal, right? Like you have this ability, no matter how tough life gets or how bad things get, to influence how you feel and to change the way you react to the world. So with that,